Alright, it's time for the episode 5 Tough 7 review. This week we had a couple developments. We have one fight, of course. We have one fight set up. We are knowing that there will be 2 fights the next episode, which that will be a can't miss episode. Alright, first up we have the aftermath of the Tim Cruder Matthew Riddle fight. What to say about that? It would be not really much, really. Kind of, it went the way I thought it would go. Riddle is a very powerful guy, but he's very unseasoned, of course, and Cruder, great on the ground. Not terrible standing, but not good. And we have the beginning of the Jeremy May douchebaggery, because we have Tim Cruder agreed to buy a Xbox 360 for Matthew Riddle, which makes sense because he had just won 10 grand. He can afford it. But Jeremy May says, of course, leave your arm out there, don't defend your arm, bro, get an Xbox 360, which is funny because most of Jeremy May's losses are by submission. 5 out of 6. I do believe his kryptonite is that he gives up the arm or the neck. Anyways, that kind of pissed off Matt Riddle a little bit. A couple of his teammates seem not too enthused with Jeremy May. That's always a bad sign. Like, in previous seasons, we've always had a bit of a douchebag. I think we've always had a douchebag who got on the other team's nerves at the very least. Shoney Carter. There's a couple others. I just can't think of them off the top of my head. I guess Joe Stevenson kind of got on the nerves, apparently, the other team, as did Rashad Evans and Melvin Ballard. But you're in a select group when your own team is starting to dislike you. You're in a group that includes Chris Lieben and Sam Hoger. That's about it. It's not good. And I guess Charles McCarthy kind of got a little bit, although his team never really grabbed him much. It was the other team mainly. And it's for bad reasons. I mean, it's because he's being a dickhead. And he lime juice, whatever that was. Forrest said it was tobacco, and it might have been whatever it was. But he lime juiced it, although they kept saying lemon juice afterwards, which I guess kind of made more sense. But I do believe it was lime. Matt Brown. Now, some people are going to say, Matt Brown doesn't have any sense of humor because he took this too far. But you know what? You look at the guy, you know he doesn't have a sense of humor. He's a serious, intense dude. He's not the guy you do that to. I mean, that's really all there is to it. I mean, he could have got it away with, I don't know, lime juicing something of Jesse Taylor's, or maybe Dante Rivera. I don't think Dante would have gotten really angry with him. I think he just would have busted his balls. But you don't jump quit the guy. I mean, you got to live with this guy, because unless he gets kicked out of the house or Jeremy May gets kicked out of the house, they're stuck there. Win, lose, draw, whatever. They're fighting next episode, of course. I mean, you get along, and he was clearly not the man to prank. You just look at him. Okay, moving on. Forrest still thinks they're going to pick Patrick Schultz to fight. The thing is, they haven't picked Patrick Schultz yet, and I think it's a good move because I think Patrick can be beaten by everyone on Team Forrest, with the possible exception of Kale Yarborough, who is a tad bit smaller than Patrick. Patrick does seem to have reasonable ability to take it down. I would still pick Kale, because I think Patrick is the worst fighter that is in the show right now. And that's not because he gets submitted by Luke Zackridge. Luke Zackridge is actually a pretty good fighter. It's just when I saw that, I mean, he gave up top position way too easily. He did not show me anything. Moving on to the fight selection, we had Dante Rivera pick Brandon Seen. I thought this was a bad idea. Dante is not a big middleweight. He is really not. And I think it showed when he had so much trouble taking Brandon down. He got the win by having top position, doing a little bit of ground and pound, but not a lot. Did have a okay attempt at a submission hold on the leg that I would count for points. People are going to say, why did Dante win this fight? But I mean, takedowns do score points. They score more than I think they should, but I think A takedown, people keep saying a takedown on its own doesn't score points, but why? Why? That's like saying a jab, if you don't follow it up with a right hand, doesn't score points. It does. It is a technique. It takes skill to pull it off. That's really all I have to say on that. Dante, I mean, he out positional grappled Brandon Seam, but basically Brandon was a big guy for him, and Dante, I think, gassed a little bit in the second round trying to get him down, and then in the third round seemed to get a little bit of a second wind, because I mean he looked pretty tired during the intermission, but he looked somewhat. People are also going to be like, well, Brandon Seam did more damage, but you look at the UFC's judging criteria, there is no mention of damage. No matter what Dana White says, there is no mention of damage in the UFC's judging criteria. There was in Pride's, there is in Dreams, there is in Cage Rage. I don't know about the XC. Strikeforce also has mention of damage, but the UFC does not mention damage. So you could rip, Brandon Seam could have ripped Dante Rivera's face up with those elbows, and it wouldn't have actually meant anything outside of he was scoring elbows. There would be no damage points because the UFC doesn't score damage. Just something they should change. And he didn't do that much damage. I mean, Dante was reasonably undamaged coming out of the fight, so I wouldn't have complained if Brandon won. I wouldn't have complained if Dante won. I feel that it really would depend on the judges. I mean, some judges are very, very big on top position. Those judges are going to get the fight to Dante. Some judges are very, very big on striking, which Brandon won the striking exchanges. He also reversed Dante once. He landed more strikes off the bottom than Dante did on the top. But those are less powerful strikes. When you strike from your back than from the top. Anyways, Rampage goes off with the decision. I don't really blame him. He's probably considerably frustrated. Probably really thought he had a win there. Finally, he's won 3 in a row. He's lost 3 in a row, and he lost the majority, if not all. No, he didn't lose all because David Mewborn was Forrest's guy, and he lost. So he was cornered by Forrest Men. I mean, and he lost. So there was at least one fight that Rampage won. And they didn't pick the guy, Nick Klein, who's actually on Forrest's team. Anyways, we're going to have Jeremy May versus Matt Brown, and we're going to have a second fight. Jeremy May and Matt Brown is a pretty interesting fight. I mean, both these guys do have skills, even if Jeremy May is a douchebag and Matt Brown has no sense of humor. But they're both pretty good on the feet. They're both decent wrestlers, I would say. Not great wrestlers. I think I might give the edge to Matt Brown in wrestling and striking, technique-wise. But I think Jeremy May have more power on the feet. And he is longer, he is larger, and he has, he can play the outside game, and Matt Brown can't. And it seems like Matt Brown does like to play the outside game, and he's not really going to have that option. Now, another thing that's very similar about these guys is they both have good submission offense. Like, they do have a fair number of wins by submission over some decent fighters, but they seem to get submitted a lot. I saw Matt Brown. I've seen both of them fight. Matt Brown, I saw fight Chris Lytle, of course, and he got submitted by him, which is not a dent on him at all. Chris Lytle's a very good fighter, but it seems neither has a great submission defense. Either that or the guys I've seen them fight and get submitted by are just great. Which, since outside of Chris Lytle and Matt Brown, I don't think none of Jeremy May's opponents have exactly stunned me. Neither have Matt Brown's outside of Chris Lytle. Now, the difference is Matt Brown may be able to control where this fight goes. I mean, he did stop Josh Smith's takedowns, and Josh Smith is a pretty good wrestler and a very strong one that I thought was going to outmuscle him and maybe get submitted from the bottom or something, but I thought that he would outmuscle him, and he had a hard time doing it. Jeremy May, probably going to be the same. I mean, Jeremy May was taken down pretty well by Dave Roberts. Dave Roberts is a good wrestler. That's really all he has, though. Basically, I mean, these guys both beat one-dimensional wrestlers to get on the show. It's going to be an interesting fight. I'm going to take Matt Brown because he trains with a better team. He trains with George Urgel and the boys. And the big X factor is, how is Matt Brown's anger going to affect it? Some people, when they get angry, they fight really, really well. Sometimes when they get angry, they fight like shit. And we'll see what type of guy he is. If Matt wins, look for, I think, Amir Sadolov to probably pick Patrick Schultz. Because the other three are wrestlers. I think a wrestler could give Amir some issues. If May wins, look for CB Dalloway to pick Luke Zachrich or Cale Yarborough, because I think Luke's weak, although Luke is a pretty good fighter, and Cale's unexperienced and doesn't have really good takedown defense. And CB's a great wrestler. So that's all from now. I will see you next episode, next UFC, whenever I do a video. Hopefully these will be more regular.